Hi everyone, it's me, the anti-black Barbie, the all-watchful eye of anti-blackness. So in today's episode, we'll be discussing a culture vulture by the name of Honey Balenciaga. So, from my understanding, they're known as a dancer who joined the ballroom scene around 2017. Shortly after joining, she climbed the ranks and was able to work with someone as prominent as Beyoncé. So, after joining Beyoncé, their career propelled even further, giving them an extreme amount of visibility. There's very few artists of Beyoncé's caliber that give space for queer dancers, so naturally, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. At some point after becoming visible, Honey Balenciaga's past was exposed. There's multiple tweets of Honey saying the N-word casually on Twitter, and of course, this is to be expected. Non-black people who predominantly spend their time around black people are typically necrophiliacs. They thrive off racial fetishization, and they're placed within the hierarchy above black people, which is racist. This leads me to one of my other points, is that we're starting to see an uptick in this behavior among POC gays. They're starting to realize they're incapable of climbing the ladder in their own community, so they latch themselves onto ours while being disrespectful in the process. This is better documented within the straight black community. You can think of someone like Erica Mena, Cardi B, Evelyn Lozado. They're all non-black, but non-white women who tried being famous and it never worked out. So they latch themselves onto the black community for relevancy and notoriety. We can even look to someone like Ice Spice. Within her first year or two, she's being featured with someone like Nicki Minaj and sipping tea with Anna Wintour. Granted, she's biracial or multiracial within the context of colorism. You can see how easy it is for people of certain complexions or phenotypes being able to capitalize off monoracial black spaces in ways they wouldn't be able to do in others. That being said, I don't really blame Beyoncé. I understand she's an artist with a massive audience and wants to be somewhat inclusive to avoid backlash, but it is frustrating to see her bring on someone specifically non-black who is in ballroom. I feel like it would have made more sense to hire someone white who came from a predominantly white background, because these ballroom spaces are designed to uplift black queers who are not visible. So giving someone who invades these genres, knowing they take up space, just feels counterproductive to me. I can't say for sure how involved she was with the casting or if she even knows about Honey's history, but from a marketing standpoint, it is disappointing to see her create space for someone as vile as this. Especially since it has been confirmed a long time ago that Honey is the type who uses the N-word as well. She's the prime definition of a culture vulture who lacks respect for the plight that black people went through and are currently dealing with now. Once the information became privy to the internet, I do feel like her team should have swiftly removed Honey. Anyways, even if you aren't an expert in ballroom, if you study Honey Balenciaga's body of work, there's much to be desired. Yet she's getting full-blown features in someone like Beyoncé set. She's not very attractive, she doesn't have the best body, she's not very charming or well-spoken, she's not the best dancer, so it poses the question, why is Honey Balenciaga so visible? Ultimately, her being a person of color in proximity to black spaces is enough to give someone, even a person as mediocre as Honey, opportunities. It's not to say that Beyoncé didn't have black ballroom dancers also being highlighted. However, when you compare Honey's exposure and media reaction to Beyoncé's black dancers, it becomes painfully obvious the difference in caliber and that she's predominantly being featured because she's white. So I want to move a little bit ahead. I want to debunk this idea that people who predominantly spend their time around black people should be considered more trustworthy, when in reality, these are the ones that people should be the most suspicious of. Oftentimes, people like this view non-black people as less than and will surround themselves with them because they enjoy the benefits that come with it, not because they actually view you as a human. Which would make sense because prior to Honey Balenciaga doing ballroom, it seems like her early career was centered predominantly around white people. In most cases, once they realize they're incapable of climbing their way to the top in their own community, they'll typically gravitate towards ours to propel their careers, which seems to be highly effective in Honey Balenciaga's case. I think what I find even more annoying about all of this is how well received Honey Balenciaga is in the black community. There's virtually no pushback anywhere about this person invading our spaces and why they shouldn't be there. I can assure you, if someone black went into an all-Asian group, they would immediately make it a point not to center that person, let alone uplift them as the face of the culture they created. And in the event that they did do that, there would be a massive protest against that person to decenter them as the face of that platform. Is seeing the contrast in the way Honey is received versus the other black dancers is an indication that the world still isn't ready for black queer femmes to receive the recognition they deserve. Honey wouldn't be so well received if people didn't feel more comfortable relating to non-black femininity. I think we all have to do our part in fixing the issue, and the first step is not allowing non-black people in these spaces in the first place. So, to give you all some better examples, I want to share an interview I found of Honey Balenciaga that showcases their pathology slightly more and how Black people respond to them. Since YouTube is heavy on copyright, I can only show you some of the audio to be safe, so here you go.
Sweet like sugar, but ooh, tastes good like honey. I got my Honey Balenciaga here. Now, okay, I have to break it down because Honey is like my kitten gay mother. So she's like,
yeah, many things to you.
My kitten gay mother. All that other jazz. So I would love to introduce to you the voguing phenom, Honey Balenciaga.
Hi.
What's good?
Hi, son. I
miss you. So Honey's my mother. So every time we talking, it's giving like, mother-son tease. It's my kitten gay mother. So bendición.
Bendición. I'm not going to hate on you because you have this and I don't.
Well, honey, look how easy it is right now. How many people will come up to you talk about, well, bitch, you're not Black. Why are you in the ballroom scene? Why are you being celebrated? Why are you getting commercials? Why are you getting jobs? Because, all this other jazz and they put all the blame on you. Mind you.
Well, they didn't like me as a Beja, remember?
Yeah.
Because they thought I was a white girl and I was winning. But when they found out I was Latina and then I was getting all these bookings, it was like, what can you say now?
Well, then now it becomes a Latino Black thing.
Yeah, now it becomes that. And it's so weird.
But again, this is why I'm saying this is why you have people who are putting in change to make sure shit like that doesn't exist. Now, I know why it existed 20 years ago to why ballroom was what it is. But now I get to see, like, for example, Honey La Beja sit at home, be comfortable with her family and grow up and be fine. Compared to 20 years ago, people could not sit at home with their families and be great. But the situation is people are still trying to live on the time that was going on compared to the change that's happening right the fuck now. So when I even get to this moment right now, honey, you have a big job on your shoulder.
Everybody can walk now. Yeah, like it's open to everyone now. It's not just for the Black girls because everyone needs it now.
So, I feel like in these cases, it's extremely hard to gatekeep because there's so many Black people like this who make space for people like Honey Balenciaga to be comfortable and rest in their ignorance. So, for example, Honey acknowledges that colorism and anti-Blackness exists, which is why ballroom was created. But the minute someone confronts them over their privilege in a space that wasn't designed for them, and why they feel like they shouldn't be there, Honey's immediate response is that she also worked hard for her spot and that ballroom is for everybody. Which makes absolutely no fucking sense. If we understand that colorism exists within ballroom and that you have astronomically more exposure and visibility and opportunities than any Black queer person who's been in ballroom for years, then how did we come to the conclusion that you worked hard to be on the same footing ground as Black people? More often than not, when you hear ridiculous answers like this, it's just because people of color want to maintain their hierarchy. They understand that they could never be featured or thrive in their communities or white communities, so they nest in ours. This is why I'll keep saying that POC solidarity isn't a thing. Despite understanding how oppressed non-white people can be under white supremacy, a lot of them will happily capitalize on a system that they complain about. Then they'll turn around and ask you where the solidarity is once they've invaded and attempted to colonize your spaces. If there was any solidarity, it would have started with Honey Balenciaga not joining ballroom. Instead, here she is thriving off the backs of Black people while gaslighting others about looking out for each other in a system of white supremacy. This is why I'm cautious about joining pro-Black spaces, because most of the time they allow non-Black people to invade them and enable them to participate in minstrelsy, and I'm no longer willing to be a part of it. In general, that's why I don't join Black groups anymore, because things like this happen far too often for my liking. Outside of Honey being put on a pedestal, she's also become quite popular with Black men recently. Every other time you turn around, I see her with a new Black man on her arm. Once I see someone cross paths with someone like Honey Balenciaga romantically, there's typically no coming back from it. It's not that I even really care about Black men who swirl, but if they lack the discernment to see that she's obviously a BBC chasing culture vulture, then I don't want them in the first place, because only God knows where Honey's mouth and hole has been. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.